Erhu and piano virtuosos Nicole Ge Li and Corey Hamm began PEP, Piano and Erhu Project, in 2011 to explore the fascinating blend of these two iconic Eastern and Western instruments. PEP CDs Volumes 1, 2, and 3 have been released with critical acclaim on Redshift Records, and Volumes 4 and 5 will soon be on the way. PEP CD Volume 2 was nominated for Best Classical Recording at the 2016 Western Canadian Music Awards. Dorothy Chang wrote Gateways for PEP, the world's first double concerto for Erhu and piano soloists and orchestra. This was premiered with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra and the Philharmonia Northwest in Seattle. PEP has toured China, Canada, and the USA, and they are an Ensemble-In-Residence at the University of British Columbia School of Music. Here now is my recent interview with both members of PEP, Corey Hamm and Nicole Ge Li. Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about how the two of you met, when you met, and how it led to the formation of PEP?
We met almost 10 years ago, I think, right, Corey? It's like 2011. Beginning of 2011, Corey and I were in a collaboration of BC Chinese Ensemble and New BC Collective from UBC, where Corey was in as a pianist. Mm-hmm. So there was like 20 some players together mixed by Chinese instrument players and then Western instruments. So we premiered 6 completely new pieces from 6 composers from China and Canada. That was really, really successful concert to me. So that's how we met. But we really never really play alone together as a duet. So after that, I had my own recital in Richmond River Rock Theater. So I invited Corey to play with me for a few pieces, existing Erhu and piano pieces I brought from mainland China. And after that concert, we felt very good playing together. And of course, I've been playing with piano when I was in study in China. It's not a totally new combo, one from Western, one from Eastern Erhu and piano. So one day Corey asked me, do you have like more pieces to try out? And I said, yeah, sure, yes. So I brought to him like 3 or 4 volume of books of Erhu and piano music. And then we tried several of them. And can I say that? So Corey asked me again, like, they're all good, but there's something missing. So of course, as a Western pianist, and then with the Western music background, he thought it's just mainly, Erhu and piano combo in a traditional way, like melody on the Erhu part, and then piano as mainly for accompany the Erhu, the soloist, or there's just not much as chamber music settings, and then also especially its lack of the contemporary and aggressive new and many styles of music for Erhu and piano. So we start to think we should probably ask around the composers around us, especially Corey been working with so many composers in his life, and then he's really good at playing new music already. So at first, I think we asked like 20 composers, and we were thinking, maybe we're lucky to get maybe 2 or 3, but Autumn said yes. So we were really lucky to have like 20 new pieces in the first 1 or 2 years. That's how we started. And after like 9 years, we got over 100 composers involved. And we've been premiered over like 70?
Yeah, over 70 have been written for us. And we haven't premiered all of them yet, but we're catching up. We're close.
So it seems the project was met with great interest from the composers. What objectives did you have originally as a duo, and how have they expanded or evolved over time?
And initially, of course, as Nicole said, we asked these 20 people expecting, hoping that maybe one or two of them would write for us, and then being delighted that they all did. So as soon as that started happening, and we realized that people were not, well, I was going to say they're not afraid, but in some cases they are afraid for writing, but sort of an excited fear, I should say, because, at least in the case of the Western composers, they, in most cases, 99% of them had not written for Erhu before and didn't know how to write for it, didn't know what it could do in many, many cases, but were nonetheless excited and took up the challenge and did so in many different ways. So, but as soon as we got all this favorable response, that initial response of 20 people saying yes, we realized that we were onto something. And then when we started to get pieces back, actually, I mean, you know all about this too, Adrian, but in my career commissioning pieces, of course, it's very difficult to write a great piece of music. It's hard to write music, for sure. And so not everything is maybe fantastic, and that's exactly to be expected, I would say. I'm thrilled for all the new pieces that I've been involved with PEP and before. And but the greatest of them are smaller number than the actual number of total number, which is to be expected, I would say. It's normal. But with PEP, we're so excited that really we love all the pieces that we get. They a huge range of styles, of course, and we deliberately chose composers that wrote in completely different styles, whether it's sort of poppy or accessible or traditional or avant-garde or minimalism or whatever. We didn't care as long as they wrote us something. In fact, we were seeking out as many varieties as we could get. And we've been really happy with what we get back. But I guess all of this to say that once we realized that people were interested in writing for us, we realized that the pieces started coming in. They're really good. We thought, well, we have to get these pieces out there in recorded form, and we also usually make videos of them and put them up on YouTube. Fairly basic videos at the moment, although we're excited about pursuing more artistic kind of fancy videos in the future. Sure. But at the beginning, it was just to record the piece for commercial release on a CD gradually, to put a video out there. This was also part of the draw, I think, to the composers, to get so many composers to write us. Logistically speaking, we had to offer them something else too, yes. Of course. And so this was part of it, and we've done that, and we're working our way through everything, and it's really been very fun.
And Nicole, the Erhu, it has such a unique character and timbre, all at the same time it also bears resemblance to Western string instruments. And I'm wondering, how do you work with composers to generate the most effective and idiomatic music for your instrument?
As you mentioned, I think the Erhu has a unique sound, but at the same time, it is quite similar to Western violin. I don't like to say they are similar because they're totally different. But in terms of introducing it to the musical language that composer can quickly know what I'm talking about, I like to say it's similar. We share many techniques together, glissando and vibrato, and also like a trill and then tremolo, and also legato, staccato, pizzicato, all those kind of things. I can do it on the Erhu, no problem. But for instance, Erhu doesn't have a fingerboard, so that allow me to do more on the vibrato, and then also do a little bit more bending when I'm doing gliss. Also, because the bow hair stuck in between those two strings, that I cannot really lift my bow out sometimes. So when they write it, they will be more careful about those parts. And also about, especially the volume wise, that's one of the weakness of this instrument. When I play the higher gestures, it's not as loud as violin that can project the volume. So this couple of things that I will always tell composer. And in fact, I had an Erhu workshop when we first started this project. at Canadian Music Center. So that's where we started. So I did the Erhu workshop to introduce the Erhu, and it's still online. Whoever interested writing for the Erhu, you're welcome to check it out.
I was wondering, actually, Nicole, have there been instances where you have a composer who is absolutely familiar with the nuances of your instrument and perhaps even has some experience writing for it at a high level that have either surprised you or that you've sought out personally?
In our new CD, we got a really great piece from China. So the Chinese composer Gao Ping was one of not only me and then Corey's favorite composers in PEP, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a very strong background of Chinese music. And then I'm pretty sure he wrote the piece for the Erhu already before. So that's probably the reasons his piece is more, to me, is more complete in many ways. And then also the length is like 6 movements. He covered everything that I have on my hands. So that's a good example.
We're now going to take a listen to excerpts from Huyan by the composer Gao Ping, as performed by PEP, Piano and Erhu Project, who are joining us today. And this recording is available on their latest release, Volume 3, on Redshift Records. We just listened to the first 3 movements from Huyan by the composer Gao Ping, as performed by PEP, Piano and Erhu Project, Corey Hamm, piano, and Nicole Ge Li, Erhu. I see that you worked extensively with composers from British Columbia and Canada. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience working with some of these composers?
Sure. Well, of course, we are in BC, and we have lots of, I teach at UBC, and I have there's Stephen Chatman, composition professor, and Keith Hamel, and Dorothy Chang, and also Bob Pritchard. Robert Pritchard is a professor there at UBC, and we have a close, PEP has a close association with CMC over the years, and so we just have a lot of friends who are composers, and so it was easy actually for us to just, phone up or stop in the hall and say, hey, would you write us a piece? And basically that's what we did. So Stephen Chapman wrote us a piece for this most recent CD, as you said already, but Keith Hamel, another composition professor at UBC, he wrote us a beautiful piece. And these are all on our first 2 CDs, actually. We've got Scott Godin, who we spoke about. It was actually my college roommate way back when, and he wrote me a wonderful piano piece back then, a solo piano piece through CBC Radio called Klangregiert, and I played one of his organ pieces for a CD way back then as well. And so we have a long history from, college roommates, but when he was a wonderful pianist, and now he's a fantastic composer. And so he was an obvious choice, and he wrote us a wonderful piece, Along the River Run, first piece on our first CD. Roydon Tse is an alumnus of UBC, and he wrote us a fun blues and grooves piece, which is on our first CD as well. It's jazzy and virtuosic and very fun. We played it a million times for an encore or at the end of a program. In fact, it's such a success. We enjoyed Roydon's piece so much that we commissioned him to write us another piece where it's called Horse Racing Recomposed. And horse racing is a very famous Erhu piece that everybody plays. It's fast and virtuosic and super exciting. And we thought that, it would be great to have Roydon sort of jazz it up a bit and see what he came up with. And he did a fantastic job. And that will be on our next CD, like our 4th CD. And we've played it now a number of times as well. It's terrific. Another composer who's written us now 2 pieces. We're kind of excited about the idea that we had a piece written for us, 8 years ago, and now we're coming around again and getting some of our favorite composers to write us something else. But Dorothy Chang, she wrote us 4 short poems, which is on our 2nd CD, and that's a fantastic piece, which we've also played many, many times. So Dorothy Chang, on the strength of her fantastic PEP piece, 4 short poems, we asked her if she'd be willing to do a huge project and write us a concerto, a double concerto for piano and Erhu soloists orchestra. And we're really thankful to her that she agreed, because that, as you know, is a huge amount of work. And she did a fantastic job. It's a major work. It's like 25 minutes long, 3 movements, beautiful writing for the Erhu and the piano, highly virtuosic, and of course, beautiful writing for the orchestra. She's a terrific orchestrator as well. We premiered the chamber orchestra version with the Vancouver Symphony and William Rosen on their Annex series a couple of summers ago, I guess 2 years ago. That was a big success, and we were thrilled to do that. And then we premiered the full orchestra version, because there's sort of 2 versions of it, which we thought was smart to do. And we played that with the Northwest Philharmonia and conductor Julia Tai in Seattle. I guess that was last year. And so that's a terrific piece, and we're really excited to get more performances of that, which we're working on right now, and we hope to record it, but that might be we're going to work hard to try and make that come to fruition. Yeah. But it's a terrific piece, Gateways, yeah.
Speaking of recordings, we've seen so many online video recordings in particular being produced in recent months. Will PEP also be recording any online video content?
Well, we're we're awaiting word from the granting agencies right now to see whether we have a grant, a successful grant, to do a couple of videos. Actually, we have in mind to do 3 videos. One of Gao Ping's Huyan that we just mentioned, the big 6-movement piece that we love so much, and a real artistic video, not just a simple planted camera. Also of Roydon Tse's new Horse Racing Recomposed. We think that would make a very exciting video. And then also this very evocative piece that we played so many times by Somei Satoh, Birds in Warp Time 2, which we think all 3 of those will make really the music is so atmospheric and so, I don't know, I find it so visually inspiring that we're excited to see what our videographer comes up with. And I think that we hope for a grant that would help us do that, but I imagine that those will happen whether we get a grant or not. It would just be slower. As far as having a video or some sort of video connection with other artists, other musicians playing together, we haven't come up with projects to do that yet, I suppose, because our newest 3rd CD just came out. So we've been preoccupied with everything to do with that, the release of that and the completion of that, and then the promotion of that and review of that, as you know, all of the things that we have to do beyond just create the CD. But we haven't done anything, or at least I and PEP haven't done anything like that. Maybe perhaps you have, Nicole, I'm not sure.
No, I'm so into doing that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really cool, which PEP is cool as well.
PEP is sort of half cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not the cool part. But half cool is okay.
And how have you found audiences react, Corey, in North America versus China? I know that you've toured pretty extensively in both.
When we're in North America touring, the people usually the people haven't typically been exposed to very much Erhu, and so they love it. We have very successful concerts, and they seem to love the group and the concept and everything, which we're very thankful for. But they come up sort of surprised, I guess, or excited that the Erhu is a normal instrument. I mean, it's an exotic thing that they typically don't know very much about. Then they go to our concert and they hear it played with piano, what could be more standard than the piano, and they love it. And I realize, this is not just some exotic, strange, foreign instrument, but it's a wonderful instrument, of course. And the music, this new music written for it, is great. And so they're, I think, a little surprised that the Erhu can be normal, if you know what I mean. I mean, that they can accept it into their sense of just what the instruments are that they are typically used to. Now, when we played in China, of course, the Erhu is not uncommon at all. Everyone knows that. So what I've found is that they're amazed that the Erhu can be exotic. Of course, not the instrument, but the music that we've brought. We have this wide variety of instruments. So they're used to hearing the Erhu in very traditional music, wonderful traditional music, of course. But then PEP comes and brings a whole bunch of different composers' approaches to it, putting the Erhu in these situations, which I think it's safe to say it has not been in before. I mean, normally I would never make such an all-encompassing statement like it has not been in that situation before. But I actually think that in this case, the Erhu hasn't, at least to some degree, been asked to do some of the types of music that we're doing. In fact, I'll put in a nice statement for Nicole. I'm pretty sure that, Nicole is, of course, a fantastic Erhu player, a virtuoso, a beautiful musician. Pleasure to play with all the time. But I'll bet, because of the breadth of styles that the composers that PEP have written for PEP have done, and this is not happening across the world to this degree, specifically for Erhu and piano, I think that there's no one else on earth who is as good at contemporary Erhu as Nicole. Really, you can't say that. I play tons of contemporary piano music, but you can't say that about me. There's a million pianists who are fabulous and playing just just the same stuff as me, really, except for PEP. But that you can't say that as much as, of course, there are incredible Erhu players out there. Of course, I'm not suggesting there aren't, but in the styles, expert and experienced in such a wide variety of styles, I don't think there are. I think it's safe to say that. Now, one of the hopes of PEP, the ideas of PEP, is to ensure that is not true in the next few years, right? As people pick up PEP and realize that there's this whole wide new contemporary repertoire out there, then Erhu players across the world will start to play that, and that will no longer be the case, which is a wonderful thing. But right now, I think you're it, Nicole.
Without PEP and without Corey, of course, working with me so many years, I wouldn't be the only one on the earth right now. Play the honor to play so many new works, as a starter. So for that, I feel really, really thankful, and then I'm extremely happy to bring this music back to China, like what we did a few years ago. I feel the same. Corey just mentioned, they listen to our music, what? Those kind of feeling, even though they know this instrument so much, and even though Corey was 100% cool in China than me, but music-wise, it's totally refreshing thing to the audiences here. On the other hand, the Western audience, they never really heard about Erhu, so they probably treated the new music as new music, but they actually accept it much easier than the Chinese audience. So that's quite strange. And
And we're going to break one more time to listen to yet another track from your recent release, PEP Volume 3. I wonder, Corey, if you could tell us a little bit about the track we're about to hear, which is entitled Birds in Warp Time 2 by Somei Satoh. I see that the piece dates from 1986, but perhaps this is a newer version. Can you tell us a little bit more about the background of this piece?
Birds in Warp Time 2 is one of, we have so many favorite pieces, but it's one of our favorite pieces, and it seems to be one of our audience's favorite pieces as well. It's such a beautiful piece. It really has a mesmerizing effect. It has this sort of minimalistic piano background, and then these beautifully long glissed phrases in the Erhu against that background. It's originally a violin and piano piece, and I heard it and thought it would be great for Erhu, and I'm thankful that after Nicole's checking and realized that, yes, it can work for Erhu, and we immediately started playing it, and it's a big success. In fact, I think I like it even more on the Erhu than I do on the violin, although it's beautiful on violin too. We've played it a lot, all the time. Audiences really are enraptured with it, really. In fact, we had no, so it's an example of a piece that existed already, but that we've arranged, I guess. We didn't have to do a heck of a lot to it, really, to make it work, but something. And we were both really delighted after we recorded it, because we had no contact with the composer, Somei Satoh. We were in direct contact, plenty of contact with all the composers, but in his case, not. But I finally tracked him down and sent him a bunch of copies of the CD, and he wrote back and he loved the performance. He thought it was fantastic. And with Erhu, we're always a little bit scared. You're always a little worried if you haven't had contact with the composer when you get the recording, because maybe they'll hate it or something. And in this case, because it's originally written for violin, and we didn't, and we should have asked permission, but we didn't ask permission. But anyways, it all turned out great. He thinks it's beautiful and wonderful. And he asked me to play all of his piano music too, which is, I didn't tell you that, Nicole, but so I'm going to do that.
Nice bonus then.
Yeah, so I'll do that. And his piano music is really beautiful as well. So that's what we're going to listen to now. It's a beautiful piece, about 11 minutes long. It's a real journey with a break in the middle. For those of you with perfect pitch, when you hear the F natural, that's when it breaks. And and then it comes back and it goes back to sleep, drifts away. It's amazing.
Let's listen to Birds in Warp Time 2 by the composer Somei Satoh, as performed by Corey Hamm and Nicole Ge Li, who make up PEP, Piano and Erhu Project. Welcome back to Redshift Radio. We just heard PEP, Piano and Erhu Project, featuring Corey Hamm piano and Nicole Ge Li Erhu, performing Birds in Warped Time 2 by Somei Satoh. Can you give us the background on the two works by Prokofiev on your latest release? One is by Sergei Prokofiev and the other by Gabriel Prokofiev.
It came about, the Sergei Prokofiev came about because a couple of years ago we played in Rotterdam, and at this festival was Gabriel Prokofiev, who is the composer's grandson. And he's a composer in his own right and also a DJ, and has written concertos for turntables, and it worked as a traditional DJ himself, and also is writing lots of pieces. He wrote an opera. And so we met him. He's a super nice person, and he's from the UK, but he's Sergei Prokofiev's grandson. And we obviously in conversation, it comes up why we're there and what we're doing. And he's like, he said, I wrote 3 pieces for Erhu and piano. He already did, not for us, but they existed for another duo, or just an ad hoc duo. And so he said, of course, send them to us. And we were sort of worried that we won't like them or something like that. That's foolish, but you never know. But we loved them. We thought they were great. And immediately we said, well, we have to play these a lot. We took them on tour, took them on our debut Atlantic tour, and people loved them. And we knew that we were going to record them. And then it was an obvious thing. If we're going to record Gabriel Prokofiev, we have to try and record something by Sergei Prokofiev. Of course, he wouldn't have written anything for Erhu and piano, but I, went searching and thinking about what might work. And I have played the Prokofiev Flute Sonata millions of times in my career and love it. It's a wonderful piece. And I sort of thought, well, the scherzo from that, maybe that will work. And it does. It's super hard. Super virtuosic for the Erhu, and Nicole does an amazing job. And it's hard for the piano too, actually. But we learned it, and it works. And we thought that would be perfect to have Gabriel Prokofiev and his grandpa Sergei Prokofiev on the same CD, and we're really happy to have it on this latest one.
It seems that PEP has been focused especially on commissioning new works for this ensemble. But to what degree do arrangements comprise your repertoire?
The first 2 CDs that PEP put out consisted entirely of new pieces written for PEP, or almost entirely. A couple of arrangements, but even those arrangements were created for PEP, which was fantastic. We were so proud to have all these new pieces put out there into the world. And then this new 3rd CD, it has new pieces written for PEP by Michael Finnissy, the great British composer Michael Finnissy, Gao Ping, who we've been discussing, Lucas Oikel, Canadian composer Lucas Oikel, who's also a UBC alumnus, and he wrote us a fantastic piece, Firewall. Stephen Chatman, a UBC composer. But then also these pre-existing works by Gabriel Prokofiev, Sergei Prokofiev, Somei Satoh, and Mark Melitz. And so that's a new thing for us, to explore existing pieces, or at least arrangements of existing pieces, when they are not originally for Erhu and piano. So I think that will, we'll continue to see what we can discover in existing pieces. And the idea, the sort of, I don't know, some people might feel the blasphemous idea of playing Sergei Prokofiev's flute sonata, which of course he also transcribed for violin. So we don't feel that bad, but playing a movement of that on the Erhu might be, devilry for some. But we're interested, but I don't think so. I think if they hear it, I think they'll respond well to it. But we're interested in sort of seeing what else might work. So we have a number of ideas about pieces that might surprise people for Erhu and piano, but which we think will be quite beautiful.
PEP Volume 3 is now available on Redshift Records. To find out more about both performers and their work, please check out peppianoanderhuproject.com and check out redshiftrecords.org for more information on PEP, the ensemble, the musicians, and all of their recordings. And we're going to send off with the last movement from Huyan by composer Gao Ping.